If you are one of the many couples who have had to postpone your wedding and are potentially considering a minimony, today's video is perfect for you. We are going to outline exactly what a minimony is and the 5 key facts that you need to know to consider whether or not a minimony is right for you. For the best uncensored wedding planning advice, subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell so you will be informed every other Tuesday when we upload a new video. As wedding day coordinators, we have had to postpone a grand total of 32 weddings from 2020 for couples who could no longer get married due to the current pandemic. There are a lot of myths about what you can and can't do surrounding your minimony, so we are going to dispel those completely and let you know exactly what you need to expect if you decide that a minimony is right for you. So before we dive into the 5 Minimony facts, it's important to understand exactly what a minimony is. Now, there are plenty of definitions out there and some of them vary slightly. But based on our experience with our couples who have postponed their weddings to a later date, the definition from Guides for Brides is the most accurate, and it is this. A minimony is a non-legally binding mini-ceremony which gives guests a preview of what's to come when you throw your bigger, postponed ceremony and reception at a later date. They can be a legal ceremony, which would mean that you are legally married by the time that you have had your minimony, and then your blessing would come later on when you do your sequel wedding at a later date. The choice is completely yours. Now let's dive into the 5 facts to help you to make an informed decision about whether or not you are going to choose to go ahead with a minimony. 1. Yes, your dad can walk you down the aisle. Now, whether it's your dad or another significant individual who you want to walk you down the aisle, there are 2 things that you need to consider. Firstly, you need to ensure that the aisle is wide enough for you to walk down the aisle together. Now, that might be, if you're not in the same bubble, you can walk down the aisle but still be 1 meter or 2 meters away from each other. And number 2, you need to ensure that your guests can be socially distanced away from you two walking down the aisle. Now, that may mean that strategically seating guests further away from the aisle if you are in an establishment like a church where the pews or the seating is fixed. Or alternatively, if you're in a venue where they make the ceremony room and lay out the chairs, that you give them the exact measurements of how wide you want the aisle and where you want the seating to start from. You will need to provide track and trace information of your guests. Now, this generally consists of a contact number and their full name, so that in the event that anybody contracts the virus during the minimony or there are any cases at the venue, your guests can be contacted and informed so that they can remain safe. Now, this doesn't have to be a wedding day task. You can definitely do this before the wedding. Contact the venue and just see what their procedure is and find out if they are happy to take that information from you before the wedding day to save your guests having to provide that as they arrive. 3, you will have to provide a list of guests from the same bubbles or households so that they can be seated appropriately at your minimony. Now, these guests are going to have to be dotted around, and the distance between each grouping will depend on whether or not they are part of the same household or the same bubble. Now, if you have your venue laid out in a specific way for your minimony, it is okay for you to create your own guest list, seating plan for your minimony so that your guests are sat exactly where you would like them. You will also be the best person to know about their households and their bubbles and pass this information onto the venue, or simply let them know that you are going to manage that. Now, some venues will be happy for you to do that, and other venues, because of what's at risk, would be more comfortable if they are part of that process. So just speak to your venue, be very open and transparent with them, and find out what the best option is for the both of you. So comment below and let us know if these statements or these myths that we're abolishing surrounding your minimony have helped you to make an informed decision about whether or not you are going to go ahead and have a minimony until you can have a larger celebration next year. All guests and external suppliers will need to wear masks. So that's anyone that you're invited to the wedding who isn't part of your bridal party, your photographer, your videographer, anyone that's going to be there during the day whilst your minimony is taking place. Now, your bridal party are a little bit of a grey area. It is at your registrar's discretion if you're having a civil ceremony whether or not your bridal party will need to wear masks. Do not be discouraged if on the day your registrar turns around and says everybody has to wear a mask. They are going to a number of different weddings and they are trying to really help us to accommodate people being able to have their Minimonies during this difficult period. So if your specific registrar feels more comfortable with everyone wearing a mask, they are saying this and doing this for everyone's safety, and so don't give them a hard time about it. Try and be a little bit more accommodating and make sure you have some masks on standby which match with your theme, your colour scheme, and go a bit quirky. Try and have some fun with it. 5. For most venues, readings cannot be done during the Minimony. The reason for this is mainly due to the fact that they're trying to keep the duration of the Minimony down to a minimum. How many Minimony moments can I have in one video? So just understand when you're creating your timeline or you're thinking about the order of your day that readings won't be permitted during the Minimony ceremony. So maybe save those for afterwards if you're going to have a family meal or a few post-Minimony drinks. Now, with the new guidelines that have come in place, you no longer have to include your photographer or your videographer, your external suppliers within your guest count. So that 15 is purely based on you, your partner, and any of your guests, including your bridal party. So do invest in having a photographer or videographer on the day who can memorialize the occasion and make it really, really special. We've had some amazing Minimonies over this period, really small and intimate, and also it means that later on down the line we're going to be coordinating the wedding days of individuals who are already legally married and have the paperwork, but still want to have the huge celebration as they intended when they started planning their wedding before all of this craziness. Also, if you want to join a community of like-minded individuals just like you who are on their wedding planning journeys, don't forget to check out our Wedding Planning Uncensored Facebook page, where you can join a community of like-minded couples on the same journey as you are. If you like this video, make sure that you hit the notifications button, subscribe to our channel and share with friends.